Songyun and Daishu's new drama, Above the Spring River, Why Was Crimson Flame suddenly renamed? At first glance, the collaboration between Songyun and Daishu may seem like just another new drama announcement. A poster is released. The cast is revealed. The topic briefly climbs the trending charts. Fans discuss it for a few days. And then, as often happens in the entertainment industry, the excitement fades and everyone moves on to the next project. But this time, there is a detail that deserves much more attention. The drama was not originally called Above the Spring River. When the project was first announced, it carried a much sharper and more intense title, Crimson Flame. Just think about the difference. Crimson Flame immediately creates an image of fire, confrontation, conflict, and danger. It sounds like a story driven by crime, investigation, and intense battles between justice and wrongdoing. But Above the Spring River creates a completely different feeling. There is spring. There is growth. There is hope. And there is the image of something young and vulnerable being protected as it gradually grows. So why did the production team make such a dramatic change? Was it simply a matter of market positioning? Or does the new title reveal something much deeper about what this drama actually wants to say? And perhaps even more importantly, why has the reunion of Songyun and Daishu attracted attention despite the project not relying on overwhelming promotional campaigns? Let's take a closer look. A story entering unfamiliar territory. Above the Spring River focuses on juvenile-related cases and the work surrounding the protection of minors. This is already an interesting choice. Legal and investigative dramas are certainly not unfamiliar territory for Chinese television audiences. However, stories specifically centered on juvenile justice and the protection of young people remain relatively uncommon. That makes this project different from the typical courtroom or crime drama. The story isn't simply about catching criminals. It is about understanding why young people become involved in difficult situations, how prejudice can affect them, and what happens when the people responsible for justice must look beyond the surface of a case. Tencent Video is reportedly working with the Supreme People's Procuratorate Film and Television Center on the project, giving the production an additional layer of professional backing. Even the decision to begin filming around June 1st, Children's Day, feels symbolic. After all, if the central idea of the drama is protecting young people, what better date could there be to begin telling that story? And that symbolism becomes even more interesting when you look at the drama's promotional language, which repeatedly emphasizes the protection and growth of young people. Suddenly, the title, Above the Spring River, starts to make more sense. Songyun is facing a very different challenge. Now let's talk about the cast. When audiences hear the name Songyun, many people still immediately associate her with youthful, energetic, and warm characters. She has spent years building an image that audiences find extremely approachable. Her characters often have a natural sweetness and emotional warmth that make viewers feel close to them. And that is precisely why this new role is so interesting. This time, she takes on the role of prosecutor Liu Hong. That is a completely different kind of character. A prosecutor cannot simply rely on a bright personality or emotional charm. The character needs composure. She needs authority. She needs professional credibility. And perhaps most importantly, she needs restraint. That last point could become the biggest test for Songyun. Anyone can make a character cry. Anyone can shout during an emotional confrontation. but portraying someone who has tremendous emotions while refusing to reveal everything on the surface is much harder. A pause before answering. A brief change in expression. A quiet look at someone across the room. Sometimes those tiny details can tell the audience more than an entire emotional monologue. If Songyun can successfully create that kind of character, this role could become another important step in her evolution as an actress. Because the goal is no longer simply to make audiences say, "She is so adorable." The goal is to make them say, "I completely believe that she is a prosecutor." And that is a much bigger challenge. Daishu's career move is equally interesting. Then there is Daishu. Many viewers may recognize him from previous supporting roles, including his appearance in Thank You, Lee, which helped bring additional attention to his performance. But there is an interesting point here. The actor has often been noticed in supporting roles, sometimes leaving a stronger impression than viewers expected. And now, Above the Spring River gives him the opportunity to move further into the spotlight. That transition from memorable supporting actor to leading actor is not as easy as it looks. A supporting role can sometimes steal a few scenes. A leading role has to carry the entire story. The screen time is longer. The character development is more complicated. The emotional burden is heavier. And if the story slows down, the audience naturally looks toward the lead actors first. So this drama represents a genuine test for Daishu as well. Can he turn the attention he previously gained from supporting performances into the ability to carry a major storyline? That question alone makes his performance worth watching. Then why put Songyun and Daishu together again? Here is where things become even more interesting. The two actors have worked together before, including in the period drama **** Xiao Yao. ***. But their new collaboration changes almost everything. Instead of returning to a similar character dynamic, the two actors are entering a modern professional environment. Their relationship in Above the Spring River is built around a superior subordinate dynamic, with Liu Hong serving as a guide while the younger character carries her own prejudices and gradually learns to understand the complexities of justice and human nature. That is a significant change. And from a casting perspective, it is also a risk. Why? Because when actors reunite, audiences naturally bring memories of their previous roles into the new drama. The production team therefore has to convince viewers that these are completely different people. If the actors rely too heavily on their previous chemistry, the audience may feel like they are simply watching the same partnership in a different setting. But if they successfully create new characters, the reunion becomes much more interesting. It becomes a test of whether their chemistry comes from the previous script, or whether they genuinely have the ability to create convincing relationships across completely different stories. And early photos and reports from the filming location in Fujian have already attracted attention. Some viewers noticed the two actors appearing around the same filming areas in Xiamen and Zhongju, and their interactions quickly became a topic of discussion. What is particularly interesting is that this attention did not appear to depend entirely on massive promotional campaigns. Instead, audiences themselves began talking. And in today's entertainment environment, that kind of organic attention can sometimes be more valuable than a carefully manufactured hot search. But the biggest mystery is still the title. Now let's return to the question we started with. Why change Crimson Flame to Above the Spring River? The simplest explanation would be censorship, publicity strategy, or market positioning. That is certainly possible. but the difference between the two names is too significant to ignore. Crimson Flame sounds aggressive. It suggests confrontation. It makes audiences expect crime, danger, investigation, and perhaps dramatic battles between right and wrong. Above the Spring River, on the other hand, feels much more restrained. Spring represents renewal, growth, hope, and the image of something young gradually developing under protection. A seedling doesn't become a tree overnight. It needs sunlight. It needs time. It needs care. And sometimes, it needs someone to stand nearby and protect it when it is most vulnerable. That metaphor fits remarkably well with the drama's subject matter. Perhaps the production team realized that the story wasn't really about defeating an enemy. It was about protecting a future. And that is a much broader message. Justice is more than punishment. This may ultimately be the most meaningful aspect of Above the Spring River. Justice is often portrayed dramatically on screen. A prosecutor enters the courtroom. A powerful argument is made. The truth is revealed. The guilty party is punished. The audience applauds. But real justice is often much quieter. Sometimes justice means protecting someone who cannot protect themselves. Sometimes it means looking beyond a teenager's mistake and asking what happened before that mistake was made. Sometimes it means helping someone who has already been judged by everyone around them. And sometimes it means rebuilding trust after that person has already lost faith in society. That is why the new title may actually be more revealing than the original one. Crimson Flame focuses on conflict. Above the Spring River focuses on what justice is trying to protect. That subtle change could completely alter the emotional tone of the drama. Why this could be a turning point for Songyun. For Songyun, the project could represent another step away from the image audiences have associated with her for years. She has already experimented with different genres and character types throughout her career. But a prosecutor in a realistic legal drama demands something very specific. She cannot rely on exaggerated expressions. She cannot constantly push the emotional intensity. And she cannot make every scene about herself. Instead, she has to make the audience believe in the profession. That means the smallest details matter. How does she enter a room? How does she question someone? How does she respond when a case becomes emotionally difficult? How does she remain calm when everyone else is losing control? These details could determine whether the character feels authentic. And if she succeeds, audiences may begin looking at Songyun in a completely different way. Not just as an actress who can play youthful and lovable characters, but as an actress capable of carrying serious, realistic material. And Daishu has something to prove too. The same is true for Daishu. Being praised as a supporting actor can be both an advantage and a limitation. The advantage is obvious, audiences already know that he can make an impression. The challenge is proving that he can remain compelling when the camera stays on him for an entire story. A leading actor has to carry the rhythm of the drama. He has to sustain the audience's interest through slow scenes, emotional scenes, and complicated character development. So, Above the Spring River is not simply another credit on his resume. It is an opportunity to prove that he can take the next step. And perhaps that is what makes this pairing more interesting than it initially appears. Both actors have something to gain. Both are stepping into roles that require them to show a different side of themselves. And both will be judged not only on whether they look convincing together, but on whether they can make audiences believe in the world of the story. The real test begins when the drama airs. Of course, no drama can succeed on casting alone. A strong cast cannot save a weak script forever. The director's pacing matters. The logic of the cases matters. The cinematography matters. The music matters. The supporting characters matter. And above all, the story needs to feel authentic. Because realistic dramas have a particularly difficult standard to meet. If a crime drama becomes too exaggerated, viewers may lose interest. If a legal drama becomes too unrealistic, professional audiences will immediately notice. And if the emotional development happens too quickly, the entire story can begin to feel artificial. Above the Spring River, therefore, has to find a very delicate balance between realism, emotion, and drama. But perhaps that is exactly what makes it worth watching. The biggest question isn't how many hot searches it can generate. It isn't how many promotional posters will go viral. And it isn't simply whether Songyun and Daishu will have good chemistry. The more important question is whether, after watching the final episode, viewers will still remember the people behind the cases. Will they remember the young people whose lives were changed? Will they remember the prosecutors who quietly fought for justice? Will they remember the moments when someone chose to protect another person instead of simply judging them? Because the best realistic dramas don't necessarily leave audiences shouting with excitement. Sometimes, they leave something much quieter behind. A thought. A question. Or a character that stays in your mind long after the screen goes dark. And perhaps that is the real meaning behind the title, Above the Spring River. Not a story about flames burning everything down, but a story about protecting something fragile before it has the chance to disappear. So now the question is yours. Do you think changing the title from Crimson Flame to Above the Spring River was a smart upgrade, or did the drama lose some of the power and intensity of its original name? And between Songyun and Daishu, whose performance are you looking forward to the most? Let me know in the comments. Because this drama may have started quietly, but if the story delivers on its promise, Above the Spring River could end up being far more interesting than its initial announcement suggested.